Hello, good evening. Welcome to Being Black and Craft, where we don't apologize for recognizing our influence on craft beer. I'm Angie, the undeniable vixen, your moderator. And tonight we have a wonderful guest. We have Terry with back. Excuse me. My angels in me are already trying to kick in. Got me tongue tied. I'm with Terry. It's Black Calder.
Yes, ma'am. Black
All
Calder.
right. Right. With Black Calder. So I'd already told Terry that I was getting my throat was getting kind of sore because I would have rather had a beer. I said, but I can drink some liquor with you for sure. So I have some Angel's Envy here, nice little tumbler of that. As we get to talking, and we'll get everything going. But before we do that, I have a couple of church announcements. One thing I guess I have gotten popular again, so I am going to be on. Let's see, on two podcasts coming up March 1st. I'm going to be with Beer Daddy or Greg Washington on his live. And then on the 31st, I'm going to be with the fellows of Brews and Banner podcast. They're wanting to get some more female perspective. So I was like, hey, let me ask Angie. So I'm more than happy to bullshit and talk with them all the time because they're so goofy. So one other thing that I want to go ahead and dive into before we get started with our interview is talking about our series that we have for Black History Month, basically from ingredient to glass. And our subject for today is going to be the sweet potato. So we want to delve into the nuances of sweet potatoes to not only celebrate the role in this beverage, but also understanding the distinction between the sweet potato and yams, a source of cultural diversity and historical significance. Originating in the Americas, sweet potatoes have made a transatlantic voyage during the era of the slave trade, becoming intertwined with diverse cultures and the diaspora. This migration fostered a fusion of culinary practices where sweet potatoes adapted to new environments, climates, and culinary traditions, shaping the landscapes of Africa, Caribbean, and beyond. So it's crucial to know the distinction between the sweet potato and yams, which I think that was really, really big. That they'll have, especially going to the grocery store, they'll just have yams, and like, no, that's a sweet potato. So what's the difference? So they're kind of interchangeable, but they have a different botanical species. So the confusion arises because of the historical misnaming when sweet potatoes were introduced to the Western world. True yams, native to Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, have a rough, scaly skin, starchy, dry flesh, differing significantly from the moist, sweet interior of the sweet potato. So in the southern United States, for instance, yams are synonymous with orange flesh sweet potatoes. So in the Caribbean, sweet potatoes are transformed into beverages like the bata punch, that is a popular drink in Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago. And that's blending sweet potatoes, spices, citrus, and sometimes rum to make this really great concoction. So moving over to the Atlantic, from the Atlantic to West Africa, sweet potatoes have found their way into nourishing soups and beverages. In Nigeria, for example, sweet potatoes are used for preparation for, I'm going to see if I can say it correctly, Ofi Nasla, and it's Ofenasala. So it's a traditional white soup that incorporates various ingredients, including meats and spices and vegetables, including sweet potatoes. So additionally, sweet potatoes may also be used in beverages like smoothies or shakes to provide, nutrition and flavorful options. But in the United States, especially the southern United States, for states like North Carolina and Louisiana, sweet potatoes are celebrated for their culinary versatility, but also for craft beverages. So, beverages in these regions, the craft sweet potato beers harnesses the natural sweetness and earthy flavor of sweet potatoes to create unique brews to pay homage to the local agricultural tradition and cultural heritage. And I think actually it's not only concentrated in North Carolina, but all over, because I think we all have a desire and love for sweet potato compared to one of my loves, pumpkin pie. I know some people say death to pumpkin pie, but sweet potato ales are really really good, and I think Smittocks here in Dallas has done a couple of times. And I know Terry, I know that y'all have done a sweet potato ale. Would you would you mind before we get started tell us about your sweet potato ale that y'all created?
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good history on sweet potatoes versus yam. I know I like them both. Um,
Hmm.
we did a sweet potato pie stout. Sweet potato pie was like huge in our community, at least for me growing up, just from my grandma and everything like that. Coming from the South, being from Mississippi, sweet potato pies. Yeah, I'm part of that whole death to pumpkin pie movement that you was just talking about. So I
Yeah.
can't ride with the pumpkin pie at all, but sweet potato pie, you got me all day.
It's
And
only
so,
because I went to Catholic school. Other than that, I would have known nothing about it. I would have known nothing about pumpkin pie. That's
okay.
not my fault.
Well, I went to public school, so but no, sweet potato pie means a lot, those certain communities and cultures and people, right?
Hmm.
And now it's all popular, people got sweet potato pie or sweet potato fries and all of this stuff, but back in the day it was more of our thing. And
Hmm.
so, I thought it was important to continue to highlight our heritage and our customs and things like that, especially from the South where my grandma was from. So, me and Jamal decided to put sweet potato pies that my grandma made into a stout that we made and called it the bougie sweet potato stout. And so,
Hmm.
my grandma goes over the top with her sweet potato pie. She has some secrets that she throws in there, so it ain't like a pie you ever had. And obviously, Miss Patty LaBelle
Yeah,
has some good sweet potato pies, but I feel like she ain't got none of my grandma's. So
of
even from our
course.
artwork and covers, we kind of paid homage to my grandma, put her on the cover, and somebody who looks like Patty LaBelle. I won't say if it is her or not because I don't want Miss Patty coming after me, but
Okay, I
we
got you.
we had a little fun with that.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk about the artwork in a minute. So thank you for that. So I know that one of the questions that I was thinking about when I was looking through uh, your page and looking at everything was initially you were looking at you and Jamal, y'all were looking at craft beer at its, as it was um, about 9 to 10 years. And you were seeing that there's not very much diversity in it when you decided to have to launch Black Calder. So, where do you think it is now that you've been in the game? Where is the diversity at right now? Do you think it's gotten better? I'm sure it's always need for improvement, but have you seen a shift?
You know, I don't know if I've seen a shift of black brewery owners and black brewers, but definitely I've seen a shift in the voice and the collective power that black people have now in the industry, right?
Mhm.
We are really good at as black folks of making anything cool, hot, and pop, right? I
Mhm.
mean, if you look at what happened with Ciroc and Diddy, right? As soon as Diddy started endorsing Ciroc, I think Puff, or not Puff, but Jay Z has said in a rap lyric, I'll be damned if I drink some Grey Goose and Puff got Ciroc, right? So when black people see folks who identify like them or who are them boasting something up, we gravitate towards it, right? Because that's just the kind of culture we really have. I mean, we stick together on certain stuff, certain things we don't as people. But when it comes to like liquor and different things like that, we can really make some moves. So far as the black breweries go and brewers, I haven't seen much of a shift. I mean, it's got better over the years by a little bit. There's still like what 8,000 plus breweries out there, and we're
Mhm.
still less than the 1%, right? As black folks or black owners, but our voice, right? People like Dave Bracy have really helped, really expose to the mainstream that black people love beer. Him and Teo Hunter, T.O., my boy. I mean, it's just crazy that type of stuff. But far as us owning. Nah, Nito hasn't really moved that much yet.
So when you go to like a random brewery, are you, other than seeing yourself and whoever you brought with you, are you seeing more people of color in already there that you may not necessarily know?
Nah, not really. I mean, so I live in Beer City, USA, right? Grand Rapids, Michigan. We got like 90 breweries. We
Mhm.
USA Today, best place for breweries and everything like that. I can walk into probably any brewery at any time and not see a brown face, right? Because those spaces don't necessarily talk to us. And I don't know if it's necessarily a brewery's fault when I do look at that, because I get to know a lot of different brewery owners that are white and other colors and everything like that, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's never been their passion, and the places that they curate are authentic to them, right? It's authentic. Like, there's a Belgian brewery around the corner that I'm really cool with the owner, right? Well, his whole thing is about Belgian people and Belgian themes and Belgian beers, right? So we
Mhm.
don't have breweries out there that are readily accessible that speak to our culture. So that's why you don't see a lot of us in there. It's just like hockey games, right? We don't see the Michael Jordan hockey. I mean, that's Wayne Gretzky or
Yeah,
somebody, but if you think about hockey games, you go to a hockey game, you don't see a lot of people of color at hockey games or black folks,
yeah.
right? And the
But
craft beer industry can be
you
like
gotta
that.
go. If you go, you'll be hooked.
You could be, right? But you got to get in the door. And it
Yeah.
has to be something that welcomes you, right? You got to be like some reason that says, why am I connected to this? And that's what craft breweries haven't done yet to try to attract black folks. Um, but black people, as a black person and starting a brewery, we automatically get that, right? Like I get it. Like we gonna play hip hop when we open up our brick and mortar. I put hop heads of rappers and folks on my labels, right? Like people
Right.
identified with that, right? Like it's something cool. Jamal and I are on labels together. Like people see that and say, "Oh, I can now see myself within this." So that's the importance of
Mhm.
what we try to do in this wave of pioneers, is what I like to call us. People like Funky Town, people like there's just so many other breweries out there that are doing the work, Crowns and Hops. Like, we're making it cool. We're letting everybody know we black, we drink beer, black people drink beer.
Mhm.
Beer came from Africa. We invented beer. Like, so
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I get that absolutely because it's correcting the narrative, not necessarily changing it, but correcting the narrative is
Mhm.
so important. Uh, because usually what I tell people is, brewing beer was women's work. Men were
Mhm.
going out and, foraging and getting whatever the meat was for the household, but that was just like washing clothes. It was just something that we would have to do.
Mhm.
And to have it change so dramatically to someone that looks like they're in a lumberjack outfit is, it can be frustrating to know that, this is something that we have to continuously um, give correction to,
Yeah.
and know that it is ours. It's something for us to take back and to really even explore, even with it not even having to go that far back. It could be somebody's grandmother, great grandmother that was like, yeah, I was making stuff, for the house, you know.
Yeah. My grandma is a prime example. She used to make a beer back in Mississippi. Like, they grew up in dirt floors and they pick some cotton, for a living, which is crazy to think that my grandma was part of that. My grandfather, and they were in there, they're like 78, right? Living in conditions like that and doing those things. People think folks pick cotton hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Like, nah,
Right.
we
Mm,
picked cotton not too long ago, and some people still is doing something like that. But like you said, kind of reclaiming that history that we have when it comes to any kind of alcohol, any kind of spirit, it's just important. And I'm starting a series in March called Black Women Birth Beer, right? Because
okay.
it's true. Black women birthed beer,
Mm,
and they held it down. Sojourner Truth, a lot of people don't know she had a beer recipe. Like I know her I think it's her great grandson. He's trying to piece together an old recipe or something like that they have, and
oh wow.
we're gonna do a Sojourner Truth beer, right? I mean, it's just like you wouldn't believe the people who had their hands in beer back in the day. It's just
Mm,
insane, right?
that's awesome. That's really exciting to know that. I did not know that.
Hmm.
Um, tell me more about your Let me see if I can say that the actual, instead of philanthropic, it's craft anthropic.
Oh, craftlanthropy.
Craft lamper. Okay, my tongue.
You all good. I'm drinking the same Angels Envy as you. Soon I'm gonna start sounding like Cat Williams. I might be out here calling out folks, but nah. You know, we always wanted to do good with beer and do good with alcohol. It's always been a passion and a mission of ours to make sure that we're giving back as much as we take. And for a long time, alcohol has been such a negative vice in the Black community.
Mhm.
And, and it's true, I had uncles who were winos, great uncles, drunks and things like that. They'd have their 40 in the paper bag. My grandfather was a pastor, so they'd always try to hide it when we would come through. But
Mhm.
I've seen the effects that alcoholism could have on the Black community. I've seen what it could have in my family. But I also know that there's a lot of good that can come out of craft beer and alcohol if consumed and, properly marketed, not in some exploitive type of way. So when we talked about craft philanthropy, our goal was, I don't want to create the next generation of winos, right? I don't want the next generation of folks who just have way too much to drink, but I do want to have that next generation of folks who can handle their alcohol and have a good time and make this area where you can gather, commune, listen to Al Green, listen to Jay-Z, Nipsey, whoever, have a
Mhm.
good time, have a few drinks, and still handle your business. And so when we looked at craft philanthropy, we said, well, what good can we do with alcohol? Because again, it's had such a negative impact on our communities over the last decades, for various reasons. And so our first beer that we made, because beer takes a lot of water. I don't know if you know that, but it just takes a lot of water to make beer. I mean, you're wasting hundreds and hundreds of gallons for batches of beer, right? It's going down
Mhm.
drains, just all kind of stuff. You're spraying off equipment.
Right.
And you start thinking about the motherland in Africa and how folks don't even have clean water or they got to walk so many miles just to get to a lake to fill up a jug on their heads. Like you hear the stories and things like that. So part of our craft philanthropy mission, our first beer, is we donated to an African family and provided them fresh water for 3 years.
Oh,
Off the proceeds of our first beer, right? We did another beer called Prince Hakeem, um, kind of a
yes,
spoof
I've
off of
had that
Coming
one.
to America. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was a favorite one there. We had honey from Ghana. We put in that beer and things like that. But part of the proceeds of that, we also put a woman in Ghana through beekeeping school so that she could, take care of her family. And you think these things cost a lot of money, and they don't. You can make a global impact for hundreds of dollars.
Mhm.
Even $1,000 can make a huge difference in some of these countries. So that was some of the things we want to do with our craft philanthropy was to give back, do some good with the money that we make from beer, but also kind of set that narrative that beer isn't a destructive thing. Addictive personalities are destructive, but not the actual spirit, not the
Mhm.
actual brew. And there's good that can come from that. So
So let me ask you this: as far as like um, the young lady that you helped get into beekeeping school, are you still in contact with her? Because um, I'm putting on my other hat, my lifting Lucy hat, uh, because there's a honey board that's here that would be a really great match, um, for that organization to maybe assist her, um,
that
with
sounds awesome.
with
We are
that.
not in contact with her anymore. We did that and we went through a global giving site that helps you match your impact to what you're interested in. And so they were the ones who helped coordinate all that and
Oh,
got the
okay.
cost down for us. So,
Okay, so it's like third party.
yep. Well, not
Okay.
third party because it goes directly to them, but they help you find, they help the match, and they say, hey, we have needs. And it just so happened to be a perfect need of, hey, beekeeping school in
Okay.
this area, Ghana. I'm like, well, hell, we're gonna put some Ghana honey in this beer. Let's do it. So,
So tell me again the name of the organization that you went through.
I want to say, and I can get it to you if I think it's Global Giving Impact Fund. Like if you look up globalgiving.org, They have thousands and thousands of things that you can make a global impact for, and it tells you exactly where your dollars go, how it helps, and you can stay in touch and do things like that in certain cases, but this wasn't one of those.
I think that's really admirable, and I hope that the audience that's listening or will listen later on will take that website and try that, especially those who are doing who are creating beers to kind of give back in that way. I think that's an awesome alternative compared to, you know, I don't want to get crucified, but the NAACP or, you know, I feel like I know e- it's either locally, like this local place that I know that it's going to, I can kind of see it compared to this big monstrosity that is just kind of, it's just a drop in the bucket. Um, that
I
I
hear
know
you.
is going somewhere it's being effective.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that's something to consider whenever you donate or give, right? It's like, what is it going towards salaries or is it going towards impact? And the way I always tell people is no matter what you do, if you're giving, you're doing the right thing, right?
Mhm.
Even if it goes through salaries, those folks are making a living and a career within a community trying to help folks that you want to impact anyway. And more likely, they are the folks you're trying to impact. So, you know, we've done the global thing, we've done the local thing. I mean, hell, I've taken money out of my pocket to, help some cats pay for some classes to even learn about beer, right? It was just like, hey, I want to do this. Sign up for this course at our local community college, and you pass it, I'll just
Mhm.
tear you off a couple dollars, right? Things like that, right? It's just any impact really
Yeah,
helps, no matter who does it. I think, long as the company or the organization and has good spirit to it, I don't think you can ever make a mistake helping.
that's a good perspective.
Mhm.
Thank you. So let's talk about the artwork, that incredible artwork that's just like, wow. It's gives it always gives me feels, and it's always amazing. And this is like not necessarily the same person. So this is, you have kind of set up in a nice way for um, any artist to put out their work. So tell us more about how you get those labels.
Yeah, so I'm always searching for artists and folks who just are creative. I always like to try to give people a chance because I feel like when we got into the industry, somebody helped us, right? They gave us a chance. Even our first beer label was a college kid. He wanted to make a beer label. His dad drank a lot of beers and he had beer can collections. And he was like, yo, I think it'd be really cool if I could just make a can label.
Mm,
He had asked a lot of local breweries. They said no. It was like our first beer. And I was like, yeah, I don't know no artist, so yeah, bro, why not? Let's give it a shot.
right.
And he knocked it out the park for us, and now he's just painting all over the country and doing his thing. But
Wow.
um, you know, we try to open up a platform where we said, hey, if you're an artist, you can submit art, and we'll try to share it with our friends, or even maybe we'll buy the art. We've looked at doing several things like that to try to help artists. Some people took us up on it, some didn't. I can tell you, art is very subjective. So, not all the art could work on a beer can, but some of it was pretty dope. I just try to find a hungry artist or somebody who's either looking for a chance or, somebody I can vibe with that understands our culture. Even if they're not from the culture, if you understand the culture and you respect the culture, we can always work with you. Right. And
Mhm.
so, our art has been probably one of uh, the most successful things we've done in the beer industry. We've made great beer, but I think we've also produced a lot of great art that have had people thinking. I'm not sure if you've seen our basketball and Pelican Bay artwork at all.
Mm. No, I hadn't seen
Um,
that one.
so have you ever seen Denzel's Training Day? That was like one of my
Yes.
favorite movies, right? And when he was going crazy, like y'all will be playing basketball in
Yes.
Pelican Bay. So we
Oh.
we made a basketball in Pelican Bay IPA, and it was a West Coast hazy IPA.
Mm.
And we put somebody with the same build as Denzel Washington, we're not trying
Mhm.
to get sued by nobody.
Right,
But,
right.
we had him doing like the Jordan lean back, and we had,
Mhm.
Jake, or somebody who may look like Ethan Hawke or not, trying to guard him. And so, and our artwork always has a lot of hidden meaning to it, and it's also not so hidden. But anyway, Denzel had on a pair of Jordan 13 shoes that, we talked about the 13th Amendment and the prison system and how that really sparked mass
Mm,
incarceration against African American folks and black people. We also had, like, Jake wearing some shoes that Isaiah Thomas wore because, again, we're from Michigan, Detroit fans. Jake was Denzel's nemesis. Isaiah was Michael Jordan's nemesis. This is like so many things that tied around. Even like we had prisoners watching this game of one on one on our label. And we even had, like, the proportion amount of color to show that, so many percentage of us are of color in prison and all kind of things. And we go through this
mhm.
journey in the story. So for me, our artwork, when you drink our beer and we can sit down and we can talk about the artwork, I want it to spark conversation. I wanted to have people thinking deeply, not even deeply, but just saying, damn, I didn't think about that. Well, let's have another beer and let's talk more about what you're thinking about now. So, and
Right.
it's worked out for us. So,
That's really good. That's amazing. I just looking at it, surface level is already impactful for me. Seeing it, especially like the juice. That's
oh,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Bishop.
yeah.
Hmm.
So just looking at that and then seeing that someone created this, and then I was like, oh, I never really even thought of it being for sale. And I see this big soul sign on it. It's like, this is amazing. I would love to have something like that. Um, I think that's probably an untapped um, field as far as like getting this truly is a work of art, and I wouldn't mind having that on my wall somewhere.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's amazing, and I hope that more artists uh, have that conversation with those brewers for those amazing labels like you did, to give them another source of income. Because
Yeah,
after the I can peel off the can, but it's more long lasting if I actually have it somewhere,
yeah.
you know on a frame.
Well, to me, black beer art is a new vinyl, right? If you see behind my
Mm,
head, you'll see some of these old Rick James vinyl albums and some of that stuff right there. But if you think about how cool some of those old vinyl albums of Prince and Rick James, and they told a story on the album covers. Well, our beer covers are doing the same thing
yeah.
nowadays. And if you look at a lot of the black beer art, they're beautiful. Like, it's just
Mhm.
amazing that you get to have those. So,
Yes. I I definitely agree with you with that. I never would have thought about it being the new vinyl, but I can definitely concur with that. Yes. Yeah. So tell me about your logo. Is is it a she or a he?
it's a goddess. So it is a
Okay, there's
she.
a goddess. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me more about her.
Yeah, so this is Bama Wama Warsaw. And I'll say it one more time for you. Bama Wama Warsaw. All starts with M's if you Google it, so but it sounds like
Oh,
B. But she was the African beer goddess of the Zulu nation.
yes.
And so we paid homage to her. And she was over beer, fertility, and rainbows. And the story goes that she ended up marrying a mortal, and so on goes history. But we thought it was important to kind of highlight the history of beer, right? And I've said it a long time ago that, it started in Africa, black women birthed beer. And so we thought, just like Starbucks, our whole thing was when we first launched, Jamal and I were trying to find some cool letter to be like a Yankee hat sign, or something like that. And
Mhm.
then we went into like, oh, let's do something with a crown, let's do something with a lion. I mean, we were all over the place, but one day we sat down and we were like, yo, let's do a goddess, like, something like Starbucks, like a goddess though, like, a black beer goddess. And
Mhm.
we found the right artist who helped us get this together. She knocked it out in one shot. And I think we have one of the coolest logos out there.
Yeah, she's definitely iconic. That's
Hmm.
one. When you said the name and then you said the spelling, I was like, know exactly who you're talking about. It's one of my favorite long sleeve shirts that I wear. I think I got the last one, not last Barrel and Flow, but the one before.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one of my favorites because I was like, I think y'all have ran out of everything. And I was like, no, I have to take something home with me.
Hmm.
And that's what I ended up with. And that's what, one of my favorite things that I love to wear.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate you for
yeah.
sure.
So yeah, she's a goddess. And I think it's very striking to me.
Mhm.
Um, the basically the profile. So that's
Yeah.
really
Well, what was interesting was there is a brewery, and I won't. I haven't had enough of my Cat Williams today to start listing names, but one day I will. It was a very large national brewery, and I remember, we were trying to get our logo design right and figuring out some things, and we had this logo, and I remember I brought it to one of the CEOs and owners of this place, and this was the one we were gonna go with. But they also had like a logo they didn't use that they really liked and they thought it would do really good. And they were coming from a place of trying to help, right? But I
Mhm.
remember when this guy, and he was white, and he said, if I saw that on a beer shelf, I would never pick it up. It doesn't draw me, it doesn't strike, right? And he wasn't, again, he had everybody has their implicit bias or what draws them. But at that moment, I knew for a fact that this was the right logo. Like,
Mhm.
that confirmed it. I'm just like, he was like, I couldn't pick this out. Like, they went through all their analytics about, you need something that does this. I mean, and they spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing and research, right? So he wasn't coming at me on like some unknowledgeable stuff that he didn't know about. He's talking about
Mhm.
you got 82 cans in this case, and you got this, and and he's going into colors and all of this, and I'm just like, nah, like this is the one. Like this will be picked up. This will be one of the best logos of all. I was on my Kanye West. I'm like, this is gonna be of all time. This is gonna be one of the best logos of all time. I promise you. I was like, I don't
Right.
care what you say. And he even called me
Hmm.
after the launch, and he was just like, well, what the hell do I know? You were 100% right. And he was just
Right.
like, good to
Okay.
go. So,
At least he was able to make a correction because I was thinking you were gonna say he called and say you fucking up. I don't know why you did this,
no,
but
no,
he
no,
saw no. You were right. I was wrong. Okay,
yeah.
good.
But again, it's all about who's your audience, right?
Hmm.
Like, and he's one of those guys with the big ass beard and the long hair and the flannel, and like I said, cool cat. He's not my audience, right?
Right.
My audience are, and you've probably seen our tagline. We make dope beer for dope people,
Yeah.
right? Anybody can be a dope person, yeah, but we make dope beer for dope people, and that's my audience. So at that time, he wasn't a dope person, but now he is. He buys quite a bit.
So tell me now about the beer. Tell me
Hmm.
about the liquid.
Yeah.
So what do you have going on right now? And tell me also, well, first tell me what do you feel was your bestseller, and tell me what you
Mm.
have going on right now
Let me
that's
start
coming
with
out.
the bestseller piece because it's really interesting the way we launched. We launched during COVID, like in the smack
Mm,
dab of COVID. Like literally when we were supposed to have a release for our first beer, the Black IPA, um, our governor shut down the state, so people
mm,
could only pick up. They couldn't come in. They couldn't have a beer with you. It was just only to go. And so, I mean, when we launched, it was kind of like, damn, this is crazy. Like people can't even taste it. We can't tell the story. Like they're going off of blind faith. And we sold our first beer out, which is our black IPA. We sold that out in like I don't know, like a day. And then
okay.
we followed that beer up with another beer, and it sold out in a day. And then Bishop. So Bishop was one of our best sellers. It sold out in an hour.
Oh,
That one
wow.
sold out quick online, but the one that probably sold out the quickest was Bougie Stout. So we had this Bougie S'more Stout. And so with the Bougie S'more Stout, we use like chocolate graham crackers, peanut butter cup, all kind of things that make a really and marshmallow like a really bougie s'more. And I got the inspiration from my little sister, who,
Mm,
as a black folk, we didn't grow up with like fire pits and stuff. This was all new stuff to me. So when I got
yeah.
a fire pit, I was like, yo, let's make some s'mores. We didn't know what the hell we was doing. So my sister looked this up and she came through with the most bougiest s'more combination I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, the bougie s'more. So I'm gonna make this a beer. But when we released that beer, it sold out in 4 minutes. Um,
Mm,
People were online waiting for it, and I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. I actually thought the system broke because I was just like, we hit the button to release it, and then like before you knew it, it was like done. And I was just like, oh, and
wow.
people were like calling. I mean, it's like a Jordan release. People was like, yo, I didn't get it. It crashed on me. But you had like hundreds and hundreds of people trying to get this 4 pack, and it sold it out so quickly. So, you know, those were two of our best selling beers for sure. But every beer we ever made sold out, so it's really hard
Mhm.
you know, to say which one was the best selling because they all sold out. But one of our most popular is probably that and Prince Hopkins.
Well, which one was the most fun to make?
Ooh, okay. Which one? I would probably say the Bougie S'more was the most fun to make because that was
Mhm.
Jamal's and I really first big commercial brew,
Okay.
right? And I got video footage of us pouring in graham crackers and stirring it up. I mean, this was a labor of love. That one was. That was
Okay.
that was really fun to make.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, none of actually, let me not lie. None of this shit is fun to make because you clean up 90% of the time. I mean, you spraying down equipment and hoses and sweeping and grains and
But
getting
you
all
have the
dusty.
music going. Yeah, I mean, I know it's making beer is basically 97% cleanup.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, so I hope
yeah,
that this works.
yeah, yeah, right. But yeah, our favorite memory is probably making our first batch. So
Okay. So did and I didn't ask you about like your the sweet potato ale. Is your grandmother is she still with us? Did she taste it?
yeah, so my grandmother is still with us. She's still
Okay.
kicking. So my grandma's the first lady of a church. So my
Okay.
grandfather passed away, but she's still our first lady.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because I didn't tell her about it. Um
Mm,
and my uncle's actually on the label as well, and he has passed away unfortunately very
okay.
early.
So
But
sorry.
I did not tell her about this beer. And we just gave her a can. And
Hmm.
man, she called and cussed me out, right? And she was like, I can't believe, and at the time uncle was alive and he was living there. And I was like, all right, grandma. And then my uncle calls me back and he says, she was happy, right? I said, what you mean? He's like, man, she been calling everybody talking about he put me on a can and he had me on a nice dress and I was like, okay.
Awesome.
But she never drank it, but she did like it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what is coming down the pipe right now as far as you brewing?
Mhm.
And you're still contract brewing right now, or
Yeah.
do you have a brick and mortar yet?
No, we haven't done the brick and mortar route. Part of the reason that we haven't done the brick and mortar is I was trying to get into a neighborhood that we grew up in that got bought up by, some construction companies and some other folks. And,
Mm,
you know, there's just not a lot of real estate in our neighborhood where I want to be at, because my whole thing is I wanted to make a community impact. We've had some opportunities to open up in suburban places or downtowns.
mm,
We've had those opportunities. So we haven't not got a brick and mortar because we haven't had the opportunities. It's just not where we wanted to be. And so, we're fighting diligently to try to get into one of our neighborhoods where it has the highest unemployment rate for African American folks and just things like that, right? And really just try to create like this community gathering hub space with the beer that maybe drives more businesses to come. So, we're still holding out for that. I think eventually, if we can't, we will look at some other neighborhoods and to make that same type of impact. But it's nothing like brewing at home. Brewing where,
Mhm.
you grew up with the streets where you ran around or where your family still is all that. So we're contract brewing. We just actually signed a distribution deal, which is huge for us. So we're
Congrats.
in a process of, thank you. We're in a process of making one of our largest batches ever and getting some very wide distribution here
Okay.
that we'll probably be launching sometime in March.
Okay. That
Yeah.
sounds really great.
Hmm.
Um, were you thinking as far as like going the total? uh, Do y'all have a total wine there?
We do have a total wine. Yep.
Okay.
Just got one.
Go. Oh, y'all just got one.
Yeah, probably about a year and a half or two
Okay.
years ago.
Total Wine or Whole Foods
Yeah, just got one of those
on that
too.
route.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
Circle.
yeah, will we be interested in being in those places? Yeah, I think absolutely. We want to get into some small retailers and the folks who supported us in the early days. But there's been a lot of great support for black breweries and craft beer from Whole Foods. They went down to
Mhm.
Barrels and Flow. I've got to meet
Yeah.
a lot of people from their staff, and they're really passionate about this, right? I don't think it's
Very
just a
passionate.
checkbox. Yeah, it's not a numbers thing to them, and they have been following up with us and just keeping in contact, checking on how we're doing, things that they don't have to do. They're Whole Foods, they're very large,
Mhm.
very busy, but it's been a real genuine relationships and you know I think it's just been awesome with them. So sure, we're definitely going to be pursuing these Whole Foods opportunities and things like that. So
And I can tell you, without telling tales out of school, that they are very genuine with wanting to get more bi BIWOC and BIPOC
hmm
in those places, and they are getting gearing up to make to ensure that their platforms and how you can get onboarded is even more easier
hmm
to navigate. So y'all just stay tuned for that.
yeah, you removing those barriers of entries and walking alongside folks. I have day jobs and I've worked in consulting and done a lot of things with supplier diversity and helping organizations and people, make the connection. And the ones who do it just for glitz and glamour, and the ones who do it because, they feel convicted that it's something they need to do and it's the right thing to do, and they have a platform and a voice to actually make it happen. So I feel like Whole Foods is that way. There's another place in New York, Community Brew, that, is looking at doing some things to help bring some equity and opportunity. I always tell folks we never want a handout. Like, I don't want a
Right.
handout. I don't want pity. I don't want you to make a space for me because you feel like you have to. Like, I just want the opportunity to make my own space. Like, you don't even got to open the door. Show me the door. A lot of times,
Mhm.
these doors are hidden and, it's
Right.
like a speakeasy, right? You got to knock 6 times and all of a sudden something
Mhm.
slides open and you can see a door. Like, you know what? Just show me where the door is at and I can make my way through. I'm going to kick it down or they going to let me in. Either way, I'm coming through the door, right? And that's the
Yeah.
attitude that we've had. So we've been very cautious before we signed our deal and before we rolled out our strategy to get into, more retail spaces and things like that. And, we're finally there where we want to be. And like I said, come March, should be some more big news and big drops from us on a large scale.
Yeah, I definitely think that that is really important, um, because, well, let me ask you this. Do you feel that DEIJ is in its turn of being obsolete, to where that threshold to kind of help or show those doors to those to people in the brewing community, that's going away? Because a lot of these places are Xing out those departments that would have kind of, hey, let me help you navigate these waters. Do you
Hmm.
think that that's going away?
That's an interesting question you're asking. So when you say DEI and J, that's diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, right? Just so
Yes.
people who may watch this don't know what those mean. You can even
Yeah.
throw a B in there for belonging, and
Yes.
they'll throw in like 10 other things too. But um, I think your question was, are those things going away? Is that what you're essentially
Yeah.
asking, or?
Are they going away? Because a lot of programs are getting, they're
Mhm,
cutting them. Like these
mhm,
people who were being available to kind of help navigate these waters as far as like getting you to those,
mhm.
making it that platform or the playing ground flat,
Mhm.
those departments are being
So
cut.
I think there's two answers to this question, right? And I think the first answer is I think some folks who got into this for a non-genuine reason, this was the easiest thing for them to cut, right? They were just doing it because there was a fad. It was Black is Beautiful was out that Marcus did, which was amazing. And they
Mhm.
wanted to capitalize maybe on some of the earnings or the publicity that came from that, after George Floyd was murdered. I think a lot of organizations felt that they had to do something, right? Or at least not be on the other side of history saying, why didn't you speak up? Even if they
Right.
didn't want to, right? So some people made a
Mhm.
business decision. And so when you do DEI and J and B, and it's a business decision, it's always going to be treated like that. But once it's ingrained in someone's culture and it's something that they say, we're committed to this, then those are the companies that don't cut things. Now, in the craft brew industry, this has been a very, very brutal couple years. Like, even some of your larger breweries are just getting killed
Yeah.
number wise, right? And, so then you start thinking, yeah, you can't cut production, you can't cut your sales team, you might need a baseline human resources. So, I think sometimes you get some good companies who really had a passion, who really want to make an impact, and so really went off and did some great things at the time, can't sustain it in the moment, right? Because
Mhm.
of sales, because of things like, seltzers and all of these things that are cutting into the craft beer market, ready to drink cocktails. There's so
Mhm.
many things that breweries are competing with now. So, I don't know if it's not as prevalent as it was in the past, for sure. I think there's still some people out there fighting a good fight, but, I think with the climate and the way everything is going, you got people who want to help who can't, and people who never wanted to help that don't know. So,
Mm.
I think you find people in some very strange positions. Um, so, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a change, but you see that in corporate America too. I mean, this isn't just beer. I mean, this is auto, this is everything,
Oh
like
yeah.
colleges, universities. And you also have had the weirdest election year to date, 4 years ago with,
Mhm.
former presidents and things like that, where,
Yeah.
this idea of woke all of a sudden became,
Dirty.
like,
The dirt.
right. And so you've had all of these social and economical impacts that DEI and J is wrapped up in the middle of. So, it's interesting to see where we come out of this all in the next couple years. But like I said, I think the ones who are really serious about this, even if they have slowed down
Mhm.
or maybe had to cut a position that they had started a while ago, if they still make opportunities and spaces, it's all about the impact. I've always told people it's never been about having a chief diversity officer. Never been about that, or a diversity director. And some people thought if they had that, it shows that they're doing it. I'd rather you not hire somebody in that position and then make silent impacts. Like we've been helped with breweries that wanted no recognition. It's like, yeah, we'll take a look at your recipe. Yeah, you can run this through our lab. Yeah, you can do this. I mean, that
Right.
was been more impactful than somebody writing
Yes.
a D&I statement and holding one training for 8 people that probably forgot it before they left, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, those folks are still out there. They just may not be as visible as in the past. So
Yeah, that's way more impactful.
yeah.
I wish that there are more people that are in the beer business that take um, that kind of step to kind of foster those relationships to where they can have someone to look at their recipe or have someone to, hey, let me check this at the lab and see if it's you know correct before you put it in cans and ship it out to the masses.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, you look at people like Goose Island. Like we've worked with Goose Island. We've done a couple collabs with Goose Island, and they're gigantic, right? They have
mhm,
huge
yeah,
operations, and they have been very welcoming, very friendly. Like anytime we have a question or call, or just seeing how they, I mean, they have millions of dollars worth of equipment in one room, right? And and they got, I don't know if you know Brewer Sam, but
very familiar. Yes.
yeah, he's the GOAT, man. Like he's opened up doors of opportunities for a lot of black folks within Goose
Mhm.
Island to, you know, really see something that we don't get access to.
Yeah.
And he's opened up some doors for us that have just been very great, for our brewing knowledge, for opportunities, for our exposure. I mean, it's just things like that. I think those are the kind of companies that they may not, have a chief diversity officer, but they're on the ground doing some work with
Mhm.
us and folks like, again, they didn't have to, and they did. It
Yeah.
served benefited them nothing. This was after all of the big pushes and things like that, and they're just like, yeah, come on through. Let's do some tours. Let's do this. We'll show
Mhm.
you this. See in their barrel warehouse. I mean, like I said, Sam
Yeah.
has opened up some amazing doors for us through his just through his status there, right? And this is what we need to do as a people. When we get to places and spaces that there's not a lot of us and there's not a lot of opportunity, we need to help create the opportunity and make sure that our organizations, care about it much as we do and put our
That's
reputation on the line. I mean, that's what we need to do to grow forward as in this industry and as a culture and people, in my opinion.
that's absolutely correct. Yes. Yeah, I've had the opportunity uh, because I was the over the leadership for our North Texas chapter, and I just happened to get an email, and I connected with someone that was at Goose Island, and Sam chastised me. He said, "Now you know why you come to my city and you didn't tell me." I said, "Hey, it was a pink boots thing. So it was women in beer." But we got to tour the facility, and it was just massive and just
Hmm.
absolutely so very welcoming. I completely agree with you on that. And yeah, they don't have to. I mean, they're getting their money,
Hmm.
so to be able to say that I'm open to share with you my knowledge or my really amazing and great.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think those were all the questions that I had for you this evening.
All right.
I think I asked everything other than I know that you and Jamal y'all have been were y'all college mates or were y'all just neighborhood friends?
Neither.
How did y'all meet? Okay, that's what I didn't know. Okay, how did y'all meet?
Yeah, so Jamal and I both had some day jobs. I was working at a construction farm, and he was working to help people with their business plans, right? And so we went to this forum to help minority subcontractors understand how to help grow their business better and do the things that they need to do. And he was on the business planning part, and I was like, how do you work with larger firms to get work and things like that? And we both were at this event, and we both got to speak about what we did. And afterwards, I didn't know Jamal at all.
Oh,
And like I just looked at him and I was just like, "Hey man, you want to start a brewery with me?" Because he was in the business planning and all the projections and all that stuff. And I mean, we both got our MBAs. We're pretty smart cats, I think, for the most part.
okay.
And he looked at me like I was crazy, and which, like, I guess I would if anybody asked me that out the blue. And he
Yeah.
said, "Man, why'd you ask me that?" Because he was like, "I've been thinking about it." And from then on,
Wow.
we had, a couple beers, we met, we talked, and we just started figuring out how we get it together. So, yeah. I mean, truthfully, we've only been friends.
Okay.
Shit, we've only met since probably 2016, but, here we are.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just thinking that y'all were neighborhood because you were saying in the neighborhood. So I was like, oh, y'all must have been like
Oh, yeah.
neighbors, or y'all went to the same school, something like that.
No, it's my
Okay.
neighbor. It's my neighborhood where I grew up at.
Yeah.
Jamal has Detroit and Lansing roots, and now he lives in Grand Rapids. And I've always been from Grand Rapids,
Okay.
so but he might as well be a Grand Rapidian now. So he ain't gonna give up them Lansing roots though. He love himself some Lansing.
Really? Okay.
That's where he's from. So yeah,
You'll give them that.
yeah, that's him. That's him.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Terry. I really appreciate everything that you shared with us this evening. Thank you for just opening up different things that I did not know as far as Black Calder and just the aspects of what's to come. I'm excited for what's coming up in March. I can't wait to see this, especially for the drop that you're going to have, and as well as the new series that you're going to have. So I'm excited for that, and I hope that our listeners will be tuned in to see what's to come.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you for making spaces and, all that you do. I'm sure you work and you do a million other things, but it's important to get our voices out there and to have these conversations. So, we're grateful and thank you for purchasing a shirt. And anytime you want to have some more yak, let's do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you everyone for joining us for being Black and Craft, where we don't apologize for recognizing our influence on craft beer. This is Angie, the Undeniable Vixen, and y'all have a great night and a great weekend.